Hi, I'm Chris Lee, and this is Virtually Speaking. Joining us today is Sam Glenn, one of the most inspirational speakers out there, known for years as the Attitude Guy, an accomplished speaker and painter whose works are auctioned off each year at a value of over $250,000. He's written several books, and his latest book is about to come out tomorrow, titled Ugly No More. His other book titles include Attitude Changes Everything, Not All Superheroes Wear Capes, and Superhero Leadership. Mentored directly by Zig Ziglar as a speaker, Sam is known now as an award-winning performance artist, recognized by many organizations, including as Speaker of the Year multiple times. Drawing from his experience as an acclaimed performer with the legendary comedy troupe Second City, Sam's personality, performance, and stature are larger than life from the stage. So please join me now with the incredible Sam Glenn. Well, hello, Sam Glenn. Thank you for joining me here on Virtually Speaking. Sir, how are you?
I'm doing good, Chris. Thanks for having me on your show.
Absolutely. I am a huge fan. As you know, I begged you for a painting, and I may have gotten one from you that may be hanging on the wall over in another part of the office here. And not only a fan of yours as a painter and an artist, but as a speaker. You are so awesome, and it's so great to have you here, man. How you been?
Good to be here. I'm glad you got that really cool lion painting. And I'm a self-taught artist, so half the time I don't know how it's going to turn out, but yours turned out to be one of the best.
That's true. I told you that I love it a lot, and I see a lot of your lions out there, and I think I got one of the ones that, I mean, I just love the color pattern. Let's go take a look at it. Do you mind? Would you like to see it on the walls here at
I
Calendar
would love
Entertainment?
to see it. Yeah,
Okay,
let's
so
see it.
all right, so let's do that real quick. Sam Glenn's lion on the wall right there, folks. Look at that. Sam, we love that painting. I see it every day when I come into my offices. This is wonderful. All right. Awesome, man. Well, again, thank you so much for that. I'm so excited to have that here because I'm a Leo. When I walk into the office in the morning, I see that right before I get into my office every day, and it inspires me. It really does. And I
Awesome.
know that as a speaker, you inspire people, but people get left behind with the artwork as well, and it inspires people every day that people walk past your art. Is that kind of part of the dream for you to leave that behind like that?
Well, I never set off to be a performance artist. I actually started doing chalk art and just on a small scale, and it just kind of slowly progressed. And so a lot of times I kind of found my style, which is a kind of a replication of Bob Ross, because I have more people who come up to me after my presentation and they're like, "Do you know who you're like? You're like that guy on PBS. He's got really big hair. There's always accidents, but they're happy ones." And so I kind of, there's speed painters out there, but I might be the only performance artist who actually, people hire me for my speeches and my content. But because of my attention deficit disorder, I have to, turn that weakness into a strength. And I like to paint while I speak. And so I'll leave the painting behind, and typically they'll either auction it off or they'll give it away. Sometimes they'll keep it, but I would say on average, yearly, based on the auctions, when they auction it off to give it away to a special cause, I think it usually averages between 100,000 to $250,000 throughout the whole year. So the most one of my paintings has ever sold for is $42,000. And
Wow.
yeah, I kind of, when that happened, that was my response too. I'm like, oh man, I need to network.
Yeah.
I wanted to walk around the room and be like, hey, I've got more art in my van.
Down
I
by the
call it
river.
I call this piece my mortgage. So, but with all the artwork, any artwork I sell, we donate all the proceeds to the Make-A-Wish Foundation.
Yeah.
It's trying to find a little bit of purpose in the artwork, because here's the whole core. of all my artwork. It's designed to be abstract and messy. It's kind of like Jackson Pollock. Here was an American artist. He's passed on, but he would put a canvas on the ground and he would take normal household paint and he would just splash it,
Yeah.
and it would just look like a mess. And so the perception was, well, this is just a mess. But then all of a sudden we learned something. The perception began to change. And that's what I talk about attitude, that when we change our attitude, we change how we see things, how we approach things. And so all of a sudden people started to find the meaning, the message, and the masterpiece within his mess. And if you look it up, I think the most one of his paintings has ever sold for was $144 million. And it literally looks like a 3-year-old did it. So,
Right.
but that's what my artwork is all about. It's filled with abstracts, it's messy, and throughout the whole process of my speech, it's about finding that meaning, the message, and the masterpiece. And people relate to that because that's what life is about. Life is filled with messiness. And so the question is, how do we deal with that? How do we grow from it? An example is 2020. We're all trying to forget it, but we never will. But the question is, what did we learn? Who did we become? Did we become better or did we become bitter? And so that's really the whole concept of trying to get people to understand that it all starts with your attitude, and everything follows your attitude, and attitude changes everything. It really
Yeah.
does.
Yeah. I used to
Yeah.
think of you as the attitude guy. And that's very good way to think of you. But I love the title of your new book, and this is really great timing, I know, for us to have this conversation, because your new book, and I know you've written a lot of books in the past. This is going to
Yep.
be, I know, your most successful because you're blowing up on social media and out there on the internet. More people are finding out about you than ever before, and maybe the pandemic was a little bit of a blessing for you because you just killed it, in the pandemic. The content you were putting out there, man, was so good, and I love your Instagram, and everything you do is funny, it's entertaining, it's inspiring. But the new book is called Ugly No More. I love that title.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about how you made the book, why you made the book, and what the book's about.
Well, this is about my 30th book.
What?
A lot of the books that I write, I try to make them ADD friendly, enjoyable to read, big print, and just great stories, great metaphors. And so one day, I have 3 kids under the age of 7, and my middle daughter, she came up to me one day and she asked the question. She says, "Daddy, what does ugly mean?"
Mm.
And it was one of those moments where I kind of got caught off guard. I was like, "Suri, what does ugly mean? Maybe, where's your mom? Let's ask your mom about, because I wanted to give her a good answer.
Yeah.
I didn't want to just give her a superficial answer. And then she asked the question, "Daddy, are people ugly?"
Wow.
And a lot of times when we hear the word ugly, it's not a pleasant word. It's not a happy word. It's not a feel good word. But I answered her honestly. I said, everybody's beautiful. Everybody is unique, their own uniqueness. But I said, what makes us ugly is when we choose an attitude that is an ugly attitude, an attitude that works against us. And then after I shared that with her, I mean, because she's starting to experience, the kids are back in
Yeah.
school. We did the homeschool for a while. And so they're starting to see what experiencing the first, I mean, I'm sure you experience this, where kids get bullied and they're starting to experience that.
Or just
And
people not being nice necessarily.
that's it. It just people demonstrating that ugly attitude, making other people feel ugly. And it goes back to one of the sound bites in one of my speeches. I talk about misery. Misery loves company. It's always recruiting. They want you on the team. And so that's why it's so important to have boundaries. So I started exploring what are the uglies in our life, and I started identifying different uglies. At this particular time, a friend of mine called me and said, "I have pancreatic cancer, which is a very aggressive cancer." Somebody called and said they lost somebody. Somebody's got health problems. Somebody's looking for a new job. There are certain uglies in our life. and you can call them messiness or uglies. And you don't have like that blanket answer that brings everybody comfort and peace. But I've tried to encourage them and have empathy, and really it's about empowering their attitude that, hey, I can deal with this, I can grow from this, I can become from this, I can use this. And that's what it's about. Because here's the thing, Chris, is that adversity doesn't make appointments. It doesn't knock on the door on a Tuesday like, hey, Sam, can I flatten your tires Saturday at 4? Does that work with your schedule and budget? No, no, that adversity shows up in the form of changes, challenges, the unexpected and uncertainty. And so it's not about having a perfect attitude, but it's about having that right attitude to deal with it the right way.
Yeah. And,
Yeah.
I can't help but thinking that, you're an artist. I'm a drummer. I understand
Nice.
creativity. And a lot of times, and I've drawn, and I love, using my hands to create great things with paints or with pencil. And with my kids, they love drawing. They're like, Dad, draw me a blank, fill in the blank. And it's like, I've never drawn that before. How the heck am I going to draw that? But
Yeah.
the question that I'm thinking about for you is ugly no more. And what you were just saying also tends to remind me of an artist who makes a mistake, as a
Mm.
drummer would, playing live or on a recording. Maybe being the only one in the room who knows that you made a mistake, or one of only a couple people who might have heard that mistake. Or when you're drawing something, oh man, I shouldn't have made this line that way. I should have gone this way, or that's too long or too big of an arch. But using the mistake not as a horrible thing and crumpling up the paper and saying,
Yeah.
oh, darn it, start over, but working with it, right? And then realizing maybe that was a blessing in disguise, right?
Yes, yes, absolutely. And I think that goes back to like Bob Ross. When he talks about happy accidents, he
Right.
makes accidents as he's painting, but then he transforms it into something and he calls it a happy accident. And I think there are moments in our life where maybe things didn't work out the way we wanted to, or they didn't turn out the way we wanted to. So, but like you said, if we can look at it and call it a bust, or we can call it a blessing and use it. And I've used all of my failures, all of my trips and falls and flops. I've tried to use those to grow from those. And
Yeah.
I ask this question all the time. I'll ask people in the audience, can you think of a time when the attitude you brought to a situation made the situation much, much worse? And everybody's like, oh yeah. I mean, we can all think of a time where we're like, I probably could have handled that a little better.
Yeah.
But it's in those moments that you recognize that that's awareness, and that's where you grow,
Yeah.
and that's where you develop resilience. So when it happens again, you have that resilience to deal with it the right way.
Yeah.
And so I like that. Yeah, you gotta be willing to use your mistakes, turn your
Yeah.
mistakes into happy little accidents.
Yeah. And, but I now I'm thinking even more deeply about this topic. And I love that I'm talking to you, of course, about this. And I wonder, I've heard a lot of people say that artists are kind of, people who are people who feel things more deeply, or they have a lot more pain, or they're able to express their pain, or those that have gone through painful childhoods or painful
Mm,
experiences can be the best artists. Those who are
yeah.
troubled, those who are having issues that are anxiety or stress or depression, can come through in the art. So
Mm,
it seems like to me that artists may be the best teachers in a lot of ways, to teach us how to get through the pain. And I think that
yeah.
now that we're coming through this pandemic, and what I saw that you did during the pandemic, it was almost like you were a window into our own souls as to how to look at this thing. Because most of the people were doom and gloom, can't wait till this is over. This is
Right.
horrible. Look what I don't have anymore. Look what I've lost. But you really looked at it a different way.
Yeah, I tried to focus on what I could control. There's so many uncontrollables, and when we
Yeah.
focus on the things that we can't control, I think that that elevates our anxiety, our fear. And what I'm noticing now is that people are kind of experiencing a level of burnout. So, or that adrenaline's coming down, because when something like the pandemic happens, our adrenaline gets up, like, our survival mode. But it's like for myself, I might go on a road trip for 3 or 4 days, and I'll have 3 or 4 different events, and you got to be up and
Yeah.
you give your all. But when I get home and that adrenaline comes down, all of a sudden I'm experiencing a crash, and I need like a couple days to recoup. And so I feel like people are at a place right now where they need a moment to recharge, refocus, rekindle, and reconnect to, is what Simon Sinek calls your why. It's been around for a while, but um, where are we going from here? And so I think the real value in my presentation I'm seeing lately is that people need that recharge. They need that moment to refuel, refocus, rekindle their enthusiasm, and get excited about what they're doing, because there still is that element of uncertainty right now.
Yeah.
And you never know when things are going to change again. But that's the thing, is things are always going to be changing. Norman Vincent Peale once said, the only people without problems are in a cemetery. So as long as you're above ground, you're blessed. You're going to have changes. You're going to have trials and challenges. So embrace them, grow from them, become from them, and use them. That's what it's about.
Yeah. So, what's the number one thing people are asking you to focus on as far as thematic or topics, or point of view from you when you're delivering to an audience these days? I mean, are you hearing the same thing a lot from a lot of the people who are hiring you now to speak virtually and in person, or are you hearing just a wide gamut of different types of themes, or is it really starting to start sounding the same a lot to you?
It kind of does sound the same. I put together every year. I've been blessed in the sense that I kind of break the rules with certain groups where they have that, when some conferences have the one speaker, your one and done rule. I break that rule. I have companies that have me back 3, 4, 5 times,
Right.
and and so every year, to accommodate them, I'll create a new speech, and that speech usually focuses on the communication I have with them. What are you experiencing right now? Well, everybody's coming back, and there's the mask issue, the vaccine issue. People feel overwhelmed, they feel stressed, and you're seeing a lot of those signs out there right now. Please be patient with us, we're understaffed. So people are feeling that burnout, and so I've been trying to work on a new talk called the resilience factor. How do we stay resilient, but how do we inspire resilience uh, in those around us and those that we work with in our
Yeah.
workplace culture? So work can be a healthy place to go, because work should be a healthy place to go. It shouldn't be a place to go where you have anxiety, you feel sick, or you just you're thinking about something else. You should go there and be fully engaged. And really, that's why I encourage leaders. You got to create that right kind of culture. There's really two types of leaders in every organization. This is from our research, and this is in the new book. There's rooters and there's looters. Rooters and looters. The rooters, they care about others. The looters, they look out for themselves. The looters, they make excuses. The rooters find solutions. The looters, they just want the job done to get the credit. The rooters, they're all about empowering people with purpose, value, and growth. And I think that truly makes a difference, and it transcends into how we communicate with others and how we treat others, because ultimately it boils down to human skills, Chris. There's no
Yeah.
such thing as soft skills anymore. It's human skills. Human skills are the drive everything. A lot of times I'll have people say, well, our focus this year is on, education and training. But, Aristotle said it best. He says, educating the mind without educating the heart is no education at all. And so we got to start teaching people how to use these human skills, how to elevate their organization by becoming rooters, by becoming better team players. And so I think that's so important right now. And that's kind of what I'm noticing, the kind of a trend with a lot of my clients.
Yeah, that all makes a lot of sense, and that was beautifully said. So as a speaker, you touch people, you move people. I'm sure you hear great feedback. I've heard great feedback every time I've booked you. You're a sure thing. I love that about you. But I'm wondering from a personal standpoint, maybe even not necessarily talking about your speaking business, but from your personal experience as an artist, what's something in the last couple years that's really shocked you but touched you, that somebody said that your art has done for them?
You know, Chris, I get this a lot. So a lot of times what I do during my presentation is I'll give art away. And, as people hear the story and the message behind it, this happened the other day. I was giving away one of my Grow Through What You Go Through paintings. These are the most popular paintings I do. I get requests for commissions all over the world every week for these. I think when I retire from speaking, I'll just be doing these forever. That's let me see if I can get it in here.
All
But
right.
this is a Grow Through What You Go Through painting.
Wow, it's
And
beautiful.
yeah, so this is all abstract. And this represents the things that we're going through in our life, and or the things that people don't see, the messiness, the changes, the challenges. But right here, we have a choice. We can become better or bitter. And the whole premise of this picture is using everything that you're going through and to grow through what you go through. So sometimes we always tell my clients, I usually paint one picture during the performance of my speech, but we always tell them, if you get an extra canvas, I always get there early. I'll paint the picture. You can give it away, do what you want, keep it. And usually it's this painting. And so I was in North Dakota, and it was about 800 people. Everybody's walking in. I painted this picture, and this woman walks by, and she's kind of vocal. She kind of narrates it. She goes, she looks at it. She goes, "Geez, that just looks like something a kid would do." And she didn't know that I did it. And I kind of chimed in because I was just like, yeah, those crazy kids. But what was she focused on? You see, what we focus on is what we feed, Chris. She was focused on the mess. She saw all the abstract, and that was where her mind went.
Yeah.
And she was feeding that. So I got up and I talked about we can become better or bitter. We can grow through what we go through. We can use all of this in our life and become from it. And at the end, they auctioned it off. Guess who got it?
No way.
She got it. She paid, I think it was like $2,500 for it. And
Wow.
the money went to a special cause. But when she ran up, Chris, this was the first time this has ever happened. Usually people get it and they're like, boy, that's a beautiful painting. But when she got it, she saw her story in the picture. She started pointing out different abstracts in there. And she goes, this right here is when my mom died.
Wow.
This was my divorce. And then she's just like, I have two teenage kids at home. She goes, that takes up the rest.
Yeah.
But she was so excited, and she said, Sam, she goes, I didn't know I needed this today, but she goes, I'll never part with this. I am so grateful. And she goes, I'm so grateful that my ex-husband bought this for me today also. I'm like, oh no. I'm like, let me change my name on there. But I love stories like that.
Yeah.
And a lot of times what I do, I mean, the one thing I'm not looking for is I'm not looking to be famous. I don't want the spotlight on me. I would rather put it on you. But I'm not looking for the praise. But there's a lot of artwork that I give away every month to little boys and girls who their parents will reach out from events, and they'll hear me talk about the Make-A-Wish Foundation, and their kids have cancer. This is one thing that touches all of us. And cancer has a mission to end your life. And that's one of those abstracts. That's an ugly in life. But we beat cancer in the manner in which we approach it, our attitude. and we beat it when we find strength in each other. And so I send like superhero paintings to kids. Just sent one the other day to a young lady. She's 7 years old. She wanted a lioness painting, and she was very firm about making sure it was a pink lioness. And I love seeing those pictures. That puts purpose in what I'm doing,
Yeah.
because I'm helping people find the message, the meaning, and the masterpiece. And I always put a little note on the back. This is a forever painting. This will stay with you forever and remind you as you're going through your journey on life, to remember that this is not wishful thinking. This is called courageous thinking. That's what it's about right there.
That's amazing. And in this time that we're living in right now, that message is, more important than ever. Being
Yeah.
courageous. We thought that 2021 was going to be the new chapter, and 2020 was so bad, and 2021 was going to be so different, and it really wasn't too different. It was better, but
Yeah.
hopefully we can just continue to go down that path towards better, and 2022 will be much better than even 2021 was, because it's starting to feel a little bit like it kind of did in the old days, but some things have changed forever. Has your artwork changed?
Yeah. In 2020, I mean, I'm home. So I'm like, what
Yeah.
do I do? And I always wanted to have time to work on my art. And so
Yeah.
I actually I hired two mentors, and they were in different parts of the world.
Wow.
And I'm like a palette knife kind of artist. And so, my wife would hear me out in the garage, like, you want me to do what? I don't speak that language. I don't know what to do. But I'm trying to learn, and it helped me become better. And I loved doing the virtuals.
Yeah.
I was prepared to do the virtuals, and I stumbled upon something. So our son was 2 years old at the time, and he just didn't like to sleep. So at night he would get up at like 2, 3 in the morning. And so we're sitting there and we're watching shows like Blue's Clues, Pee-wee's Playhouse. He loves Fred Rogers, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. But when you watch those shows and you see a little child completely captivated, 2 years old, where it's just one main character, all of a sudden I started putting it together. If you're going to give information, if you're going to teach, train, you've got to make it captivating where it sticks. And that's what we did. We had a blast. I mean, I think one virtual session I gave away a car. I don't know whose car it was. We found the keys in the parking lot. We gave them away, but we had a great time, and people loved it. We had CEOs emailing like, "This is so different. I wasn't expecting this at all." But we were just trying to make the best of it. And that's a great lesson, and that's in the book also. We can complain about things, or we can choose to make the best of it. Even though we don't have the best of it, Chris, our attitude, it communicates, let's make the best of it.
Right.
Let's make the best of it, and let's see what happens from that. And so we did that with our virtual shows, and we had a blast. I had a blast. So
yeah, I know you did.
And some groups now they're doing the hybrid, and
right.
And so I have a couple of those events coming up here. And so again, I always tell my clients, because they always say, oh, people are burned out on the virtual, or they want this or they want that. And I'm like, let's just make the best of it.
Right.
And they love that. It's a good perspective. We can complain about it all day long, but that's not going to solve anything. But if we go forward, how we go forward is we just choose to work together and make the best of it and see where that leads us. What a difference that makes.
Yeah.
So go ahead. No, just go right ahead, Chris.
No, please. I want to hear what you were going to say. I can remember.
Well, I was going to say, I know that this goes out to a lot of your clients, and when you talk about finding the gift in failure and things that maybe didn't work out. My ambition was to be an NFL football player. Yeah, that was the path I was on. And then now I just look like a retired NFL player who loves snacks. And so, but that didn't happen. And then I wanted to, I had a great opportunity. I studied at Second City, and I was on track to be on Saturday Night Live. I was offered a full-time TV role, got a lot of movie parts, had a chance to hang out with Chris Farley, a lot of those SNL guys, but it just wasn't what I felt called to do. And interestingly enough, I didn't set off to be a motivational speaker. A motivational speaker. I love that. Chris Farley, band down by the river.
Yeah.
I actually started by teaching Sunday school, just volunteering. Here's about 100 kids that they don't want to be at church on Sunday. And so that was the ultimate practice for me.
Wow.
And it just kind of evolved. Kids were like, wow, that was really cool. I got so much from that. Would you come speak to my club?
Right.
And now, I have a business that's almost over 27 years old. That's probably 98% referral business.
Yeah.
That people are like, man, you got to get this guy. I don't know if he's medicated or not, but he's awesome. He makes meetings fun. And that's what I think people like. They hire me to kick off a meeting, close out a meeting, but they want that element of fun. And I think they also like that I don't use PowerPoint as well.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Anytime I say I'm not using PowerPoint, I always get an applause. One group actually gave me a standing ovation.
Well, but your PowerPoint is your canvas.
And I always tell people, because I have attention deficit disorder, I am the PowerPoint. But all of those things, to say they didn't work out for me. And there are things that don't work out. And instead of being sad and depressed and rooted in those failures because they didn't work out the way I wanted to, my path went in a different direction. And I fell in love with encouraging people. And here's where it went to the next level. A lot of people ask me, Sam, how did you really get here? Well, I knocked over somebody at a buffet. I'm not a buffet bully, but they brought out the bacon. It's bacon. I got excited, Chris. But I knocked over the legendary Zig Ziglar.
Oh.
And yeah, a lot of people, there's companies that would have to line up around the planet to get him to speak at their event.
Yeah.
But he was such a humble guy. He passed on in 2012, but his legacy will live on for a long time. And Zig actually got to see me speak at the National Speakers Association, and we shared a lot of coffee together. We didn't hang out at buffets. We just felt that was safer for the relationship. But Mr. Ziglar he didn't send my speaking career into overdrive or I never asked him for favors or anything. But he was encouraging, and he helped me with my attitude, because a lot of us, we all know Zig's lines. Even the best of us get stinking thinking, and we need time out to do what he called a checkup from the neck up. But from that moment on, I didn't know who Zig was when I knocked him over at a buffet. When we got to the end of the buffet, he asked me to have my meal with he and his wife. And so we're sitting there, and I'm eating with them. And there was a moment of awkwardness, probably 5 minutes in the meal. My family's on the other side of the restaurant. They see me eating with this other family. I'm like, I'm over here. But Mr. Ziglar, he was always encouraging. And what I liked most about him is that he was human. He was kind. He was decent. He had respect, integrity. He was the element of human skills. And I think now more than ever, we need to put a greater emphasis on putting those human skills into our meetings, into professionalism. I think that's kind of my big thing right now, is just focusing on kindness, decency, how we treat each other, and just being respectful and demonstrating integrity. Those are so important. And those are the things that, no matter how much the world changes over the next 100 years, those things will always be there. Those things will always be important.
They'll always be important. Exactly.
Yeah.
And, I can tell you emulate that 100%. Working with you is always easy, seamless. You're down to earth. You're easygoing. You're giving the client exactly what they want, and you love what you do. And that's why people like you. And that's why I love to tell people about you. So I look forward to telling a lot more people about you and having this video be seen by a lot of people who find out about you, hopefully, who maybe didn't know you about you before. And I look forward to seeing where this goes for you, and hopefully in 2022 you have the best year you've ever had. I think that's what's going to happen, because I can see how you blew up in social media and online, and I think this book is going to be huge for you. And I know that I'm pitching you like crazy. So I look forward to
Thank
seeing
you.
you again real soon, and when you land here at LA, like I said. And man, it's always fun talking to you and hanging out.
You too, Chris. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, man. I'll talk to you soon.